right. So, I'm off to see Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. And I'm also trying not to get killed. You know, it's weird. It's weird because I write about this stuff a lot. And, you know, a lot of people have me pegged as some sort of Marvel fanboy. I hate DC. I hate Superman. I hate all whatever. Obviously, it's not true. But, you know, trying to convince people of that, you know, I can't do it anymore. I can't try anymore because nobody listens to me. I think some of you believe me, but some of you just think I have a vendetta. And that's not true. But all I will do is share with you a story about the first time I did this. The first time in my life where I saw a Superman movie. I was 4 years old, and my mom took me to the Elmwood Theater in Elmhurst, Queens, which is in New York. And we went to see Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure it's my first memory in life. I remember sitting there and just being enraptured by seeing Superman be super. And I'll never forget this one pivotal moment, which for me is one of the first things I remember in life, which was somehow at that age I already had an understanding that to be buried is to be dead. So when Nuclear Man pounded Superman into the moon and buried him, I instantly started bawling uncontrollably. My little 4-year-old self started crying, and I turned to Mommy and I said, "Mommy, Superman's dead." And she felt terrible, obviously, and she was trying to console me and explaining, no, he'll be fine, just keep watching. And people sitting in front are turning around and looking at the spectacle of this 4-year-old boy wearing his little Superman t-shirt and crying hysterically because he thinks Superman's been killed. And then that thing happened where you hear the da, 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 and his fists come out of the moon, and he climbs out of the ditch, and he goes over and he lifts up the American flag. And I remember, it was, I don't know how to describe it. All I know is, to this day, my two big loves in life, aside from my wife and my children, are Superman and movies. And I trace it back to that experience of a matinee showing at the Elmwood Theater watching Superman 4. Each time to go see a Superman movie has been a religious experience for me in one way or another. And now here I am for Batman v Superman, a film that I know I don't have the most optimism for, but I'm going to give it a shot. Kelvin, wants me to see it. He's made this a professional assignment for me to see it and cover it for you guys, our readers at Latino Review. So I'm going to do this. I wasn't going to, as many of you would recall, but I'm going to see this movie, and I will keep you up to date on my thoughts. All right. It's time. So, initial instant response. There was a lot I didn't like, but there was definitely some stuff that I really did like. So, and since a lot of that stuff was towards the end of the movie, I'm almost tempted to say that it was a pleasant surprise. But I gotta drive home and think on it, because It's just right now, since the only good stuff was like the last half hour, 40 minutes, I can't forget about the first 2 hours, which I thought were horrendous, and just kind of see how I feel and put together a cohesive score that puts everything together. So I'm going to drive home and give my formal review once I'm there. So, right off the bat, I want you to know that this isn't going to be as harsh as some of you might be expecting. Ultimately, since I wasn't offended and I didn't walk away angry about anything I saw, unlike with Man of Steel, I'm going to be a little more favorable with this film than you might expect. Because the worst crime for me was that I was bored. And I'll take bored over pissed off any day. So, let's start with the boredom. Yes, the first couple hours are pretty dreadful. I would say the whole first about hour and 40 minutes. Be it the fact that Terrio felt the need, or Goyer, or whomever, felt the need to basically structure the story in such a way as there is no story. You're just literally, it's almost like a Game of Thrones episode where you're meeting with these, with this character for a few minutes, and now we're looking at this character for a few minutes, and now we're looking at this character for a few minutes. And none of the scenes really seem to flow into one another. There's no real sense of pace. The story doesn't really pick up any sort of momentum. And a lot of the times when you think it's about to lead into something, the next scene has nothing to do with the last scene you just saw. So it's very frustrating, and it has for me, it had the effect of I just sort of tuned out. After a little while, I just kind of was like, okay, can we please just get to something really exciting? Because all of these little micro scenes, it's not doing it for me. So yeah, the first hour and 40 minutes are pretty rough. And yeah, there were a couple of annoying inconsistencies there. Stuff where, Batman is shown to be, or Bruce Wayne is shown to be the one who's more into straight up heroism, right? The stuff that I've spoken about many times in other columns. Doing on-the-spot saves and trying to avoid collateral damage, like he did in that first sequence. He tries his hardest to save a bunch of lives during the battle in Metropolis. And he's very upset with Superman for the lives lost while he was trying to save lives, right? But meanwhile, there's a chase sequence with the Batmobile where he pretty much steers a car full of henchmen into an oil tanker. And the oil tanker explodes. And fine, so the henchmen die. I don't have a problem with Batman killing. I know some of you will. I don't have a problem with him killing. But the tanker was being driven. So there was an innocent driver in that car who just died because Batman sent a henchman car barreling towards it. So, if you're going to have Batman be the righteous one, why show him basically indirectly killing someone in one of his first big action sequences? It just, it's one of those Snyder things where I'm sure he thought it looked cool. It's a chase sequence. Batman is, he outmaneuvers him and sends him to the oil tanker and it explodes. That's awesome. But again, if you're trying to tell a story where Batman is supposed to be somewhat of a moral compass here, how do you have him kill an innocent truck driver? But aside from that, they made, I didn't hate Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know where all the hate for him comes from. Yeah, I thought he was a little annoying, but I thought, hey, this Lex is annoying. That's the direction they're going for. And it's not the Lex I wanted to see on screen, but that's not about it. I'm not coming to this with my own personal expectations. I'm coming to see what they've created for me. And I have no problem with Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. There were a couple times where I thought he was insanely over the top, but for me, it just kind of, it fit. It honestly, it fit. So he didn't bother me. in terms of where things picked up for me, you know, it really wasn't until after the big Batman versus Superman fight itself, which I know is like, you know, it's like, what? How can that be? The whole movie's built on Batman v Superman. But for me, the build up to it and the fight itself was just kind of painful to watch. You know, I'm not the kind of fan who has ever gotten anything out of the idea of Batman and Superman fighting. That just, it doesn't speak to me. I'm more about them working together. I've always been more into the world's finest. I've always been more into the Justice League, more into the two of them working together as night and day, trying to be, you know, two sides of the same coin and balancing each other out. So for me, the idea of watching them beat the hell out of each other just does nothing for me. And when that fight happened, to me, it was painful to watch. It was like watching mommy and daddy fight. You know, it was like I got no pleasure out of it because I'm just like, why are you guys fighting? This is stupid. But then right after that, literally right after that, that's when the movie took a huge upswing for me. Right from the moment where Batman and Superman are suddenly on the same page and there's this nice emotional moment that occurs that does it, that for me was when the movie actually became like, okay, now I'm in. Let's do this. But unfortunately, that was almost 2 hours into a 2.5 hour movie. So, you know, I had to sit through an awful lot of stuff that for me was either uninteresting or disjointed or boring or convoluted to finally get to the good stuff. In terms of the good stuff, I actually really enjoyed Doomsday. I thought I wouldn't. When I first saw him in trailer number 2, I thought it looked awful. But I don't know, I didn't mind. I thought the effects were fine. I thought the design was fine. A nice merger between an original thought and what we know from the books. And yeah, the whole Doomsday sequence for me, I really rather enjoyed. Yeah, it could have been staged a little more excitingly. But I really like the Doomsday bit. As for just the overall, you know, what we had to enjoy here, Batman, Ben Affleck did a very nice job. I would have liked to have seen more of him, and that's kind of one of my overall critiques, that the movie tried to do too much, and I really do think that they should have maybe broken this up into, you know, not necessarily the Marvel model where it's a Batman movie, a Superman movie, a Wonder Woman movie, and then this. But they really should have maybe done at least one other movie to give us a chance to get to know Batman, to get to know Superman, and actually fall in love with Superman. Because Superman, I mean, listen, I'm biased. He's my favorite character in the world. But I feel like you have to fall in love with this guy. Because, you know, otherwise he's hard to root for. He's invulnerable. He's super powerful. He's like a god. So if you don't fall in love with him, his personality, his heart, his soul, who he is, then you're not really, you know, you're getting a gimped experience. You have to be able to go, I love this guy. I look up to him. He's an inspiration to me. And all throughout Man of Steel, and then in everything that came afterward, everyone said, well, you know, he's getting there. That was just him at the early stage. But he's still there throughout this movie. Throughout this movie, we're never given a chance to really fall for Superman and think, I love this guy. This is my hero. And I'm starting to think, and this is going to surprise you, it's not all on Snyder. You know, a lot of my critique over the years has been on Snyder. But I'm starting to realize now that Henry Cavill's been getting let off the hook a lot. And I don't know why. I think Henry Cavill's actually a fairly lousy actor. And I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in Man of Steel, because that was the first time I'd ever seen him. I never watched The Tudors. I didn't see Immortals. I've never seen anything with Henry Cavill. So when I saw Man of Steel, and I thought he was kind of wooden and somewhat annoying, really. I didn't like him. I thought he was sort of whiny when he was Clark, with the scene with his father. I found him to be sort of unlikable. I thought, all right, well, maybe that was just, Snyder's fault. But now I'm seeing, while watching this, that he just really wasn't that good. There were a couple times, a few lines he delivered, and just the overall structure of his performance to me was just very. I felt at a distance from him. I feel like he's not really there. He's just a log. He's just a zombie. And I'm starting, because I'm a firm believer that a good actor can elevate anything. And a good actor can create magic even with a crappy director, even with a crappy script. And this time that was pretty clear in this movie, because characters like Perry White and Lois Lane and Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne, and Gal Gadot's, Wonder Woman, they're all dealing with the same director as Henry. They're all dealing with the same script as Henry, yet they were able to make a pretty good mark just by stepping up their game and bringing something to the roles. Henry Cavill doesn't seem to be able to rise to that occasion. I'm starting to question whether or not he really is the right man for the job. I used to think, he's got the look. Everyone tells me he's been so good on other stuff. So, I guess he's going to be a good Superman. But I no longer think that's the case. I think he's one of the main reasons that myself and people like me haven't been able to really sink our teeth into this Superman and get behind him. And it's kind of a big deal in a movie like this, because if you don't care about Superman, he just feels like a villain. And in this movie, you're going to see the way they handle it. If you're not rooting for him, you're supposed to be sitting there, and whenever they say bad things about Superman, you're supposed to go, no, they have him all wrong. This is such an unfair situation. He's really not as bad as they say. But unfortunately, because of Cavill's demeanor and this sort of smug, angry, lumbering zombie thing he's got going for him, you're not exactly jumping to defend him. When other people speak ill of him, you're thinking, well, maybe they kind of have a point. And I don't think that's really, that doesn't work here. And if they were trying to do that, it was an ill-advised decision to do that, because all it really did was make Batman seem cool, Superman seem like a bit of a jerk, and then, in a baffling spin, right before the battle is when they finally let Superman seem somewhat vulnerable, and you get to see real emotions, and for a second there, you feel like, okay, I'm with you. So you're with him just in time to see Batman smash him over the head with a sink. So now suddenly Batman doesn't seem so cool anymore. And it's just, the whole thing's a mess. The whole thing's a mess. So for me, as soon as that fight ended, that's when everything got much better. Because then we got to watch good guys being good, bad guys being bad. Instead of bad guys being bad, good guys hating each other. Just, it was like watching mom and dad fight. I'm sorry, I keep going back to that. I turned to my friend during the screening and I'm like, who is this entertaining for? Just watching these guys beat the hell out of each other. It's just no good. And aside from that, the score for me was kind of hit or miss. There were moments where I loved it. There were others where, for me, it totally sort of overpowered and overwhelmed what was going on. And that's unfortunate. Because I typically like Hans Zimmer, and Junkie XL's done some nice work. But the score, for me, at times, was totally overpowering. And so, let's get to it. Right down to brass tacks is my final score. I put a lot of thought into this, um, and had the entire film been like those first hour and 40 minutes, it'd get a D easily, because it was really, really, really poor storytelling, really odd decisions, just a mess. Um, but just based on the strength of what happened during those last 30 to 35 minutes when Batman and Superman, you know, mend fences, and some of the emotional build that led to it, just based on that, that brings it up a whole letter score. So I'm giving this a C plus. Okay, Batman v Superman score from L Fanboy will be a C plus. That will be reflected in the written review as well. And I think that's it. So thanks for spending the evening with me at the movies. If you have any questions, feel free to, write in the comments or tweet me at I_am_MFR. Or, as always, you can pester me in the comments of my articles. I'm always happy to reply. All right, so thank you and adios.